Yeah.
And in 1901, we find that the events of 1902 were also preceded by a few weeks by the appearance of a new star, this time in Gemini, as seen from South Africa. This was on the 16th. In April and May 1902, across a zone of this Earth, also outside the zone, there were disturbances. More than Earth-wide relations are indicated, according to Ford. Ford itemizes a long list of these events. Volcanic eruptions of Mount Pelée in Martinique at, I can't pronounce this, La Saphir on St. Vincent, and an earthquake in Siberia as mud fell from the sky in Pennsylvania, New York, New Jersey, and in Connecticut in North America. On May 7th, the sky over France turned black. Soot and water like ink fell upon Parc Saint-Malo. On May 10th, a great number of highly colored objects like little suns were seen in the sky over South Devon. Later in May, in 1902, spectacular meteoric showers occurred over the West Indies. Earthquake shocks occurred in Spain and France. A volcanic eruption in Mexico, quakes in the Fiji Islands, a violent quake in Iceland, and a volcanic eruption at Cook's Island, Alaska. In Rangoon, Burma, it so happened that the most terrible storm that ever occurred was remembered. A remarkable meteor seen in Calcutta and in Java, I guess it's Raoul volcano erupted as rumbling came from an extinct volcano in the country of France. Over Guatemala, a thunderstorm with terrific electrical discharges dumped enormous volumes of water during an earthquake. In Charles Fort's 1902 data now indicates phenomena on a solar system-wide scope. And again, a new star appears, but this time not in Perseus or Gemini, but in the southern constellation Compass, as reported in popular astronomy. It appeared in October, and Fort again theorizes this new star is responsible for the following phenomena. In October 1902, vast amounts of smoke-like haze of unknown origin obscured all things at sea from the Philippines to Hong Kong and the Philippines to Australia. It was so thick it impeded navigation. This blanketing of the southern Pacific was only a couple of weeks before a series of atmospheric fallouts that would not end until well into 1903. By November 12, 1902, our world had traveled along the ecliptic to the opposite side of the sun as it was positioned 6 months earlier in the month of May. On November 12th and 13th, 1902, occurred the greatest fall of matter in the history of Australia. Upon the 14th of November, it rained mud in Tasmania. There was a haze from Australia to Hong Kong. Hundreds of millions of tons of matter that fell upon Australia, Pacific Ocean, Atlantic Ocean, and Europe in 1902 and 1903. Blankets of dust and sometimes mud caked ships to where all hands had to be reported on deck just to scoop and shovel mud off the ships in order for it not to capsize. As dust, dirt, and mud rained on Australia, the densest darkness lit up with glares. Fires were falling from the sky as seen through giant pockets of mud. Balls of fire from the sky fell upon and ignited the ground in every district of Victoria, even setting fire to houses. At Weissenproof, the whole air seemed on fire. Buildings were burnt in Bort, Allendale, Delinquin, Langdale, and Chiltern. This incendiary sky was followed by a rain of red dust and darkness through about 50 towns in Australia. They suffered this darkness and disasters, and for a row, little of this tremendous occurrence has been told in the publications that are said to be scientific. It has been ignored. Australian reports read that there was nothing like it before in the history of the colony, with people stumbling about blind with lanterns. On the same day, November 12, 1902, ashes with sulfurous odor fell in New Zealand. A meteorite fell at Kamsagar, Mysore, India, and disastrous flooding happened in the Malay states. 7 bridges carried away. Also, volcanoes erupted at Kilauea, Hawaii, and on the 13th, a volcano at Salvi in Samoa erupted, and at Windward Islands, West Indies, Stromboli and Mount Chulapata in Peru. That's my best guess. Over Parramatta, Australia, and on the 13th, a meteor exploded. 5 days later, on the 18th, a fireball fell, exploding terrifically at Karkora. At Moranborough, Australia, dust and a large fireball fell from the sky. Ford notes that on this day, the new star in Puppet shined at its greatest magnitude when a 6-foot tidal surge struck the coast of southern Australia. On the 20th, Sir Charles Todd of Adelaide Observatory reported a large fireball was seen moving so slowly it was observed for a total of 4 minutes. On the 21st, a fireball, apparent size of the sun, was seen at Taurida. An hour later, several towns illuminated by a great fireball or an explosion. The next day, on the 22nd, a fireball passed over the town of Nangan, Australia, intensely illuminating the night and ground, and a fireball exploded at Ipswich, Queensland. Though Fort covered 334 years of documented reports, he specifically focuses on 1902 and 1903 as particularly unique. Concerning the contorted scientific reasonings of his day, he wrote in the book Low that it belongs to the Dark Age, or the other Dark Age of the year 1902. All right. Let's see here. Oh, man, the video wasn't visible the whole time? Oh, man, really? That's terrible. That's all right. Those are old pictures anyway. Damn, man, how'd that happen? I guess I didn't present it right. That's okay. It was all to be listened to anyway. It just had a picture show with it. I'll be damned. That's okay. Let's move on. Got to figure out why that happened like that. I need a Martin Leakey training session. He knows how to use this software real good. So, as you can tell, there was no reason for me to reiterate all these things. You know what? At the end of this video, I'll show that, because you know what? There was about 12 pictures of all kinds of weird stuff that happened in 1902, like plagues, an admission that an entire war was interrupted because of natural disasters. Yeah, all kinds of stuff. So at the end of this video, I'll scroll that video. We'll go out with that video so you can see it. All right. So that's the disasters are something else. So 1902, in the month of May, you all know, Phoenix veterans, you all know, every time Phoenix destroys stuff, it's in the month of May. So in the month of May, the French Caribbean island of Martinique, at the city of Saint Pierre, about 400 miles south of Puerto Rico, a Protestant missionary in March, this is before May, his name is George Penny, and he visited and distributed Bibles at Martinique. The city was a Catholic, though. It was French. It was a Catholic city, and the local clergy, they were enraged, and they threatened his life if he did not leave the city. After he left, the Catholic clergy, they confiscated all the Bibles. Yeah, in 1902, you weren't even allowed to have a Bible if you were a Catholic. You had to go to Mass, and you can only listen to it in Latin, and it's just a bunch of BS. So the Catholics were confiscated. Okay, these Bibles were confiscated, and the Catholic priest and whoever they are, diocese, wherever they were, they did a public book burning, and they invited everybody in Martinique to come, and they burned all those Bibles in March. So, on the day of Easter, the same Catholic priests sacrificed a pig and tied a Protestant Bible to the dead animal and dragged it through the streets of Saint Pierre. That's crazy. This is crazy, guys, because when they did this on Easter, that same night, Mount Pelée began smoking. You can't make this stuff up. It's crazy. It is the tallest mountain in the island, and it was supposed to have been an extinct volcano. It rumbled continually on till May 9th. So, some say it was May 9th, some say it was May 8th when it exploded. I don't know. I got different books telling me different stuff. So the force of the blast blew over ships in the harbor. A searing hot wave front of broiling gases incinerated the city, burning alive all 30,000 French Catholic inhabitants and their buildings, as well as most of the ships in the harbor, as well as many of the outlying ranches and settlements and villages that were full of people. Yeah, guys, 2 of these 3 books say 40,000 people died. Only one man survived. I told the story before. He used to be on the circuit with Barnum and Barnum Circus, P.T. Barnum Circus, before it was Barnum and Bailey. Yeah, he was sentenced to die. They said he had murdered somebody, and he was sentenced to die. He was in an underground dungeon. It's the only reason why he survived. And after they rescued him, he had been underground for 4 days. No food, no water, and rescue attempts. when they were dragging all the humans were burnt to a crisp. So the military came in and they just spent days and days dragging bodies to these pyres, and they were just burning them before disease was released. And as they were clearing out areas and finding more and more bodies in the rubble and all that, they heard him underground, and that's how he got rescued. And the French authorities let him go because they said there is no way. Yeah, they said the French authorities says there is no way that a man condemned to death would be the only one alive if it wasn't the will of God. So they let him make it. His name is Ludger Sylbaris, Ludger Sylbaris, Sylbars. Yeah. So he was a prisoner. He got lucky. Martinique had priorly funneled many African slaves into American ports. This is Martinique. Dense clouds of purple gases and aqueous vapors had afflicted the island. Quickly after the volcanic disaster, plants and animals returned to Martinique bigger than usual. Exceptional sized plants, animals, and insects. Even the doctor Jules Gravure grew 2.5 inches taller, and his assistant, Dr. Roon, aged 59, grew almost 2 inches, just from exposure to the ambient radiation on the island. So Martinique also, for those who don't know, Martinique also had been visited early on by Christophe Colomb, you know of as Christopher Columbus, Jewish navigator. All right, 1902. Also, destruction. This destructive volcano at Santa Maria in Guatemala. It kills a lot of people as well. Volcanic eruption covered the ancient Olmec site of Takilik Abaj. Remember the Olmec artifact that was found that links us to the Anunnaki and the Anunnaki Ner calendar and the Nemesis X object chronology? Now we have another link here in 1902 to the Olmecs. And remember, this great Central American Ecuadorian Olmec Veracruz state area wiped out on Phoenix cycles in 1687 BC during the Avellino event, and then again in 31 BC, which was also on the 552-year cycle. I showed you the big dark black suns. Those are the big events every 552 years. 1902 and 2040 are not on those big 552-year events, but 2040 is a lot closer than 1902 is. Now, the whole Olmec area gets reburied by volcanic destruction in 1902 in Guatemala. Also in 1902, the Soufriere volcano erupted, damaging Windward Island and St. Vincent in the British West Indies, killing about 2,000 people. But these are conservative, guys. A lot of times in these days, I know some of you don't want to hear it, but a lot of times in the 1800s and early 1900s, the white population made the fatality count. A lot of times they did not include the black populations. This is the same as Martinique. This is the same as all those islands in the Caribbean and the West Indies. They have real high black populations, and there's a lot of white people there as well. And it's just that's the culture that existed back then. That's what they did. So now 1902 quake, October 5th. There was an earthquake in Mexico, but there was an earthquake earlier in Mexico in January as well. So Mexico got hit twice. Let's see. There was earthquake activity in the Grenadines. We have volcanoes at Martinique, St. Vincent, the Grenadines, Santa Maria, and Guatemala. Or sorry, that was Santa Maria, Guatemala. Now this is up close and personal. Now, this is the book In the Shadow, right here. In the Shadow of Death, right here. This is the book. This book right here, on page 22, it says, this is published in 1902. It says, changes in the sea level were noticed as far as Jamaica and Puerto Rico. The sea level fluctuated, not waves. We're talking about the water dropped. This is what we find at Martinique here in a minute. As early as May 1st, even before the volcanic activity, there was observed strange atmospheric conditions, and the ocean was recorded to behave oddly. This book was a compilation of a bunch of ship navigators and everything that they saw in the local area. One of these accounts is going to blow your mind. It was before the eruption, what happened. So that's on page 22. And page 23, about the unusual atmospheric conditions, days, over a week before the volcano exploded, there's already strange things happening in the sky. And the ocean level has dropped in that area. So on page 40, it says the sea receded all along the western coast of Martinique and returned as if nothing had happened. This is right before the blast. On April 18th, this is the month before. On April 18th, which you guys know, I've mentioned this many times, April 18th is a terrible day. Throughout human history, April 18th is terrible. It's the 108th day of the year. Now, blinding lightning flashed across the sky, followed by a freak thunderstorm and torrential rain that surprised the inhabitants of Guatemala City. But before they could even seek shelter from the downpour, the earthquake was upon them. The earthquake felled cities all around and continued damaging them for a week of aftershocks in Central America. 6 cities and hundreds of villages, plantations, and settlements were ruined, and all the death tolls or estimates for the dead were numerous, and many remained entombed in the piles of ruinous heaps. They couldn't actually make accurate death tolls. Too many people were instantly buried in structures and they never dug them out. They built on top of them. So the next day, across Central America, the dead were everywhere, torn apart, buried, and hanging from splintered timbers. The total death toll was from 7,000 to 20,000, but official sources today provided only the most conservative numbers reflecting those bodies that were actually found. So it's on page 169 to 176. On page 182, we read that the earthquakes in Mexico had great loss of life in the year 1902. That's page 182. On page 182, we have this astounding statement. Guys, get this, especially those of you who like to follow the sciences and all that geology. Listen to this statement from a volcanologist, an actual accredited geologist in 1902 when he was being interviewed for this book. They were asking him his opinions about volcanism and what was going on and all that. This man, a scientist, said in 1902, he said, The old theory that the very center of the Earth is a molten mass is no longer held. That's a deep statement. You know why? Because it's 2024. And if you look at any scientific books today, they're still going to tell you that the center of our world is a molten sphere of magma, and this is the origin of volcanoes. This geologist is telling you that's not true in 1902. All right. So, in this book here, what is this? Flood of fire. Martinique, flood of fire and burning rain. In this book here, page 55. Survivors out at sea who came to the island after the eruption claimed that about 40,000 people were killed in an instant. Of the 18 ocean-going vessels that were in the harbor, 17 of them were destroyed or caught fire and sank. One ship made it out of the harbor, and it was called the Rodham. It escaped, but over half of its crew were burned to death. It's page 55. On page 80, scientific soundings conducted around Martinique after the eruption revealed that the elevations in the seabed all around the island had changed. In one place, formerly recorded to be 600 feet deep, was now 4,000 feet of depth under the ocean. Everything changed around that island. Several hundred miles away from Martinique on May 7th, before the eruption, the crew of the ship Nordby. Oh man, this is crazy. This is the crazy one I was telling you about. Listen to this. Several hundred miles away from Martinique, several hundred miles, on May 7th, before the eruption, the crew of the Nordby sailing from Sicily noticed that the air and sea had become unusually hot, to the extreme that the men removed their clothes and all on deck were becoming alarmed. Some imagined that the pitch in the seams of the ship was even softening. That's dangerous. The ship will fall apart. Then suddenly, the whole ship dropped about 4 feet in the water, and huge waves rose up all around them from what was formerly a completely still sea. For a ship, okay, ships have displacement values. How much tonnage is displaced, how deep it sinks in the water. I think the Titanic was like 88,000 tons, something like that. But listen, for a ship to just sink 4 feet into the water means the water has lost its buoyancy. Air has been removed out of that water, and this ship is now hanging deeper into the water. The water is increasing in temperature. Now they're describing waves that are chopping up and coming up everywhere. It's chaotic. Here, let me tell you what they said. So I don't want to put words in their mouth. Then suddenly the whole ship dropped about 4 feet in the water, and huge waves rose up all around that were chaotic and not going in any particular direction. There was no wind. Then something went wrong with the sun. The sun grew red and then dark red, and then later in the afternoon, the sun disappeared while it was supposed to be in the sky. The day got so dark, one could not see from one end of the ship to the other. In the darkness, sheets of lightning lit up the sea, and we saw the terrible waves, ugly and without order. But there was no thunder, and there was no wind. In the lightning flashes, the horrified sailors watched as hundreds of sharks appeared to be leaping out of the water. Men prayed, panicked, and some were openly claiming that this was the last day. Even the officers of the ship began to think that the world was coming to an end. The ordeal lasted over 6 hours. This was on May 7th. The next day, on May 8th, Mount Pelee would explode, killing everyone in St. Pierre. That is Phoenix phenomenon. That is perfectly describes over and over and over what I've described so many times throughout the past, how this, even on a clear day, the sun vanishes. It goes out. So there's no fallout. There's no ashes here. There's nothing falling from the sky. There's nothing. The only anomaly is that the ocean has gotten very hot. It's on pages 80. That's on pages 81 and 83. That is crazy. Absolutely crazy. Yeah, there could be methane in the water. Yeah, it could be any type of gas that would have made the water less buoyant. There's no doubt, no doubt. They didn't say they smelled sulfur, though. They documented everything back then. May 7th, 1902, Mount Soufriere burst, killing many with lava, and survivors claim that the dark sky produced lightning that also reached out and killed people as they ran. What? In prior presentations, I've given you guys evidence that Phoenix is discriminating. Discriminating, meaning there are populations it lets go, and there are others that it hunts down and doesn't let them escape. If the lava and the ash and the pumice and the falling boulders and the boiling mud don't kill them, look what happened here. Lightning bolts go out as some people are watching, as people are running for their lives. Lightning bolts come out and take them down. That is amazing. All right, that was page 119. Now, here's something you need to know about Mount Pelee, about this volcanic destruction, and St. Vincent, Santa Maria, all this volcanic activity. There was no volcanic activity in 1901. None. In 1902, not only do we have volcanic activity on a Phoenix year, but here's what you need to know. It's 2024 right now, and nowhere in the world since 1902 have we experienced anything like the death tolls and massive destruction that happened in 1902 caused by volcanoes. Natural disasters happen all the time, and the death tolls were high. But when it comes to volcanism, this incident in 1902 is still at the top of the scientific records. It's still there. The volcanic destruction and death toll is still on record as the worst in the Western Hemisphere history of all time. And there have been no volcanic anywhere in the world since 1902 have volcanoes taken so many lives. Not even a fraction. Even one of the greatest volcanic destructions this world has ever seen in modern times, in our lifetime, is Mount St. Helens, and only a couple people died. Because it was so remote. but it was terrific. So, yeah, Phoenix took out a lot of people in 1902. And this is just, I'm just scratching the surface, guys, because that video I showed you all the death tolls for all kinds of other things. Yeah, unusual things were happening all over the world that was killing people. And I'm gonna replay that. I can't believe y'all didn't see it. I don't even know if y'all can hear it. Tell me in the chat if you at least heard it. I thought I played a 6-minute long video. Did y'all hear it clearly? Do you want me to go ahead and post it so you can see it? Because there was a lot about 1902 in the imagery, things I'm not even talking about in the video, articles and stuff from other books and stuff. Yeah, somebody says, yes, you heard it. Do you want me to play it now again since we're on the topic, or do you want me to wait to the very end of the video? Y'all let me know. Because we got time. I'm not done. I'm not stopping this video until I've gotten this whole presentation out. Good audio. Yes, post the video. All right, I'm gonna go. It says posted it again. Play it again. Play it again. All right, cool. So, yeah, because it all starts with a strange star. Remember, Phoenix always appears every 138 years is a red star, and it grows with. But this red star, as you saw, the scientists had to rescind their statements. That was in the video, because the red star grew an appendage, and people were looking at it, and nothing 30 light years away could move that fast. So they had to rescind their statement. They looked dumb. They just threw 30 light years. Oh, yeah, that thing's far. It's 30 years away. And then a month later, they got to rescind that because it looked stupid. Nothing that far could move that fast. It was local. It was so local and so visual, in fact, that the newspapers reported that it was structural. Yeah, you can't make this stuff up, guys. Just can't make it up. So yes, 1902 is the worst year in world history for volcanoes since that episode. Since 1902, it is the worst in recorded history for all the Western Hemisphere. There were some bad volcanoes in the 1800s in the Eastern Hemisphere, but they weren't on a Phoenix year. So before I continue, I'm gonna play that video again. I'm really upset I wasn't able to get that. So file video. Let's do it again. I'll be able to know this time if it works. Present. What is going on here? Why does it keep going here? Present video file. It keeps going to this damn thing. And I don't know why. I might have too many files open. Hold on. We don't need that. We need to go here. Okay. Okay, I know how to do this. All right, let's try this way. Wow, there's a glitch here, guys. I don't know what's going on. It keeps sending me to my 1901 file, and I don't want this file. Oh, there we go. There we go.
Technical issues.
That's crazy. 1901, we find that the events of 1902 were also preceded by a few weeks by the appearance of a new star, this time in Gemini, seen from South Africa. This was on the 16th. In April and May 1902, across a zone of this Earth. Also, outside the zone, there were disturbances. More than Earth-wide relations are indicated, according to Fort. Fort itemizes a long list of these events. Volcanic eruptions of Mount Pelée in Martinique at, I can't pronounce this, La Saphire on St. Vincent, and an earthquake in Siberia as mud fell from the sky in Pennsylvania, New York, New Jersey, and in Connecticut in North America. On May 7th, the sky over France turned black. Soot and water like ink fell upon Parc Saint-Maur. On May 10th, a great number of highly colored objects like little suns were seen in the sky over South Devon. Later in May, in 1902, spectacular meteoric showers occurred over the West Indies. Earthquake shocks occurred in Spain and France. A volcanic eruption in Mexico, quakes in the Fiji Islands, a violent quake in Iceland, and a volcanic eruption at Cook's Island, Alaska. In Rangoon, Burma, it just so happened that the most terrible storm that ever occurred was remembered. A remarkable meteor seen in Calcutta in Java, I guess it's Raung volcano erupted as rumbling came from an extinct volcano in the country of France. Over Guatemala, a thunderstorm with terrific electrical discharges dumped enormous volumes of water during an earthquake. And Charles Ford's 1902 data now indicates phenomena on a solar system-wide scope. And again, a new star appears, but this time not in Perseus or Gemini, but in the southern constellation Puppis, as reported in Popular Astronomy. It appeared in October, and Ford again theorizes this new star is responsible for the following phenomena. In October 1902, vast amounts of smoke-like haze of unknown origin obscured all things at sea from the Philippines to Hong Kong and the Philippines to Australia. It was so thick it impeded navigation. This blanketing of the southern Pacific was only a couple weeks before a series of atmospheric fallouts that would not end until well into 1903. By November 12, 1902, our world had traveled along the ecliptic to the opposite side of the sun as it was positioned 6 months earlier in the month of May. On November 12th and 13th, 1902, occurred the greatest fall of matter in the history of Australia. Upon the 14th of November, it rained mud in Tasmania. There was a haze from Australia to Hong Kong, hundreds of millions of tons of matter that fell upon Australia, Pacific Ocean, Atlantic Ocean, and Europe in 1902 and 1903. Blankets of dust and sometimes mud caked ships to where all hands had to be reported on deck just to scoop and shovel mud off the ships in order for it not to capsize. As dust, dirt, and mud rained on Australia, the densest darkness lit up with glares. Fires were falling from the sky as seen through giant pockets of mud. Balls of fire from the sky fell upon and ignited the ground in every district of Victoria, even setting fire to houses. At Weissenproof, the whole air seemed on fire. Buildings were burnt in Bort, Allendale, Delinquin, Langdale, and Chiltern. This incendiary sky was followed by a rain of red dust and darkness through about 50 towns in Australia. They suffered this darkness and disasters, and Ford wrote, little of this tremendous occurrence has been told in the publications that are said to be scientific. Australian reports read that there was nothing like it before in the history of the colony, with people stumbling about blind with lanterns. On the same day, November 12, 1902, ashes with sulfurous odor fell in New Zealand. A meteorite fell at Kamsagar, Mysore, India, and disastrous flooding happened in the Malay States. 7 bridges carried away. Also, volcanoes erupted at, Kilauea, Hawaii, and on the 13th, a volcano at Savi in Samoa erupted, and at Windward Islands, West Indies, Stromboli, and Mount Chulapata in Peru. That's my best guess. Over Parramatta, Australia, and on the 13th, a meteor exploded. 5 days later, on the 18th, a fireball fell, exploding terrifically at Karkor. At Murrumbara, Australia, dust and a large fireball fell from the sky. Ford notes that on this day, the new star in Puppis shined at its greatest magnitude when a 6-foot tidal surge struck the coast of southern Australia. On the 20th, Sir Charles Todd of Adelaide Observatory reported a large fireball was seen moving so slowly it was observed for a total of 4 minutes. On the 21st, a fireball, apparent size of the sun, was seen at Taurida. An hour later, several towns illuminated by a great fireball, or an explosion. The next day, on the 22nd, a fireball passed over the town of Nangan, Australia, intensely illuminating the night and ground, and a fireball exploded at Ipswich, Queensland. Though Fort covered 334 years of documented reports, he specifically focuses on 1902 and 1903 as particularly unique. Concerning the contorted scientific reasonings of his day, he wrote in the book Lo that it belongs to the Dark Age, or the other Dark Age, of the year 1902. All right, that's good. Glad we got that out. I don't know what happened the last time. I'm just not real. There's too many links here. I'm dealing with too much shit. All right, I'm gonna remove that from studio. Move on. So in 1902, we have a German bark called the Freya. Good name. Scow. Sailing along the coast of Mexico. It was found adrift, partly dismasted, lying on her side. Everybody was gone, never seen again. But in 1902, we have I think on record there's like 18 or 19 ships that were found that way. This was something that was unique to 1902. Sailors aboard the SS Fort Salisbury in the Gulf of Guinea in the South Atlantic, they observed a dark, apparently scaled object. They estimated it was 600 feet long, and it was positioned several feet away from their ship. It was in the water. The long object slowly descended from the sky into the water, and as it submerged into the ocean, the water gave a hiss. So, this is unusual. It's even described as having a faint light on each end. I'm reminded of the cigar-shaped objects that we have been seeing in the skies and reported as far back as the days of Pliny the Elder, and in the 12th and 13th century, the rods of God that used to fly through the air. Nuremberg, 1561, 1566. They were shown in paintings or woodcuts and engravings. Showing these rods in the sky. That's what I'm reminded of. In 1347, the Great Black Death Plague, those rods were described as having bellies that opened up and just dumped decomposing body parts of forest animals. And this is the origin of the Great Black Death Plague, according to the people of the time, not according to the academies, who today will tell you that rats from China on ships are the one that spread. We already know. The historical record is very clear that the plague started inland in Europe, and it came to the coast later. Yeah, what we're taught is the opposite of the truth. So this is that's 1902 about that. And then 1902, we have a famous case. The SS Bannockburn vanished in November 1902 on Lake Superior after departing Port Arthur, Ontario, with a cargo of 85,000 bushels of wheat. Now, the steamer Algonquin spotted her, and the captain noted it, telling his mates to have a look at the majestic cargo ship. But a moment later, it was reported to the captain that the Bannockburn was not there. And the captain realized it had vanished. The men of the Algonquin, they had noted that the Bannockburn didn't have time to sail away. No ship could move that fast. It should have been there. It didn't even have time to sink in the time that the men had looked away and looked back. Also, there was an unusual storm that night that rolled over Lake Superior, and the SS Horonica had reported strange lights appearing over the lake. These lights were also seen and reported on the beaches of Rossport and Scribner. So we have three different testimonies about unusual lights being in the sky over the lake. But this is after the SS Bannockburn that day had vanished. A massive search was conducted for the Bannockburn, with tugboats combing the lake. Captain George Woods and his 22 men disappeared without a trace. That ship has never been found in Lake Superior. Scientific surveys were conducted in probes of Lake Superior in the year 1976 and again recently in 2002. but that vessel is not located in Lake Superior. So 1902 is like I told you guys, it's a really unusual year. And remember, Phoenix doesn't just bring all these, aerial phenomena, the sky fallout, volcanoes with earthquakes and stuff like that. Phoenix brings changes to our world, little holographic edits. And I've been very specific about this through many of my presentations. Many times, these natural disasters are covering something else up. So let's look into that. You tell me when this becomes when I get to the point of sounding like a lunatic. You tell me in the comments section when this list finally is agreeable to you that something unusual happened in 1902. Because what I'm about to read to you doesn't make sense. All these things should have been distributed over a long period of time in the development of our modern world, but they weren't. They all appeared within a year of each other. So let's do it. These are all things that we use and utilize and rely on today in 2024. Okay, now we're going to start with government. U.S. government, the Great Seal of the United States of America, is very quietly changed from the Phoenix, which the Great Seal was originally the Phoenix. Benjamin Franklin said it was the Phoenix. Many books claim it was the Phoenix, and it was adopted in 1782. In 1902, they changed the Phoenix into a bald eagle, a carry-on bird. In 1902, the Great Seal of the United States was changed. On the other side of the Great Seal is the Great Pyramid, and it too is connected intrinsically to the year 1902, as we will see. 1902, the U.S. government suddenly starts the Census Bureau. A whole century of the 1800s, and you didn't think about creating a Census Bureau? Now, all of a sudden, the population of the United States is important to you. U.S. creates a Census Bureau to establish and measure and keep records on the population of the United States. 1902, in England, Queen Victoria dies. Her long reign recognized as the height of the British international power. Her death symbolizes the decline of England. At the same time, the United States is on the rise. Remember, the Phoenix is always descriptive of the change of guard, of the mandate of heaven changing, governments. Same thing happened in 1764. Monarchies collapsed, and then what was introduced? Democracies and republics. I've talked to you. That's subject for another video. Now, 1902, Bolshevik Jewish power over Britain. Arthur James Balfour is made the Prime Minister of Great Britain. He keeps this position till 1905. Now, his Jewish pedigree is totally kept secret. He is the force behind the Balfour Declaration that declared Jewish settlement rights in Palestine. Oh yeah, 1902. Huge takeover, guys. 1902. The city of Washington, D.C., now you got to understand, the last true president, William McKinley's gone. They killed him. 1902, we now have a Jewish president, Roosevelt. Now, Washington, D.C., the entire capital scheme is reworked, and a pentagram and Masonic symbols are all now employed. These did not exist in 1901. In 1902, they reworked Washington, D.C. to incorporate all these Masonic symbols. Remember, in prior presentations, I've showed you guys the proof. Freemasonry was created by who? You already know it. And the whole reason Freemasonry was created was to do exactly what this was, where they knew by war they would never be able to conquer the United States of America. They had to do it from within, and they did. 1902 is when they rose in power here. Now, 1902, Paul Warburg traveled to the United States from Europe to lay down the foundation to the economic takeover of the U.S. economy by the European Rothschild banking dynasty, to prepare the U.S. Rothschild agents in their conspiracy to foist the Federal Reserve System on the American people. That was 1902, when all that was laid out and planned by Paul Warburg. 1902. Get this, guys. You know about the 411s. You know all about the dumbs. You all know about the underworld bases. You know the elite have been populating the underworld for a long period of time. But get this, 1902, the National Park System is created. I'm going to let you make it. But I'm going to keep hitting you with these data points until you're just going to have to admit this is way too coincidental. We're not there yet. 1902, the New Lands Reclamation Act of the United States is enacted. What does Phoenix do a lot? On the big dates, it creates all new territories and new lands. Phoenix, just like Mother Shipton said, when the Sky Dragon returns, mankind's new dynasty will be on former ocean beds. It creates new lands. It's a New Lands Reclamation Act. We're going to get to Antarctica here in a minute, because Antarctica has everything to do with 1902 as well. And the fact that the elite know that new lands, new real estate is about to be available. 1902, the U.S. and other European nations begin transporting plants to Antarctica with supporting infrastructure. I'm going to repeat that. In 1902, the United States and other European nations began sending ships to Antarctica. On those ships were all kinds of garden variety plants. They're sending, and this has been going on since 1902, it's never stopped. They have been sending all kinds of plant life with supporting infrastructure, greenhouses and all that, to specifically be grown in Antarctica. Why? Started in 1902. 1902 coal strike. This is the first time the U.S. government intervened as arbiter, and it literally began federal oversight of all kinds of companies and industries that were involved in natural resources. 1902 began the federal oversight of these companies. 1902, Texaco began in the month of May 1902 as the Texas Fuel Company in Beaumont, Texas. Not even 30-minute drive from me right here, 35 minutes. So, straight down Interstate 45, it's going to be longer than that. Straight down Interstate 45 and take a left on 10. I'll get to Beaumont. Yeah, it'd be about an hour, actually. All right, 1902, the Rand Daily Mail newspaper, magazine of Johannesburg, South Africa, was established. The Rand Daily Mail is a periodical dedicated to creating division between white European nations and those indigenous cultures of Black Africans, Aboriginals of Australia, and American Indians of North America. The Rand Daily Mail is a globalist-funded periodical that is specifically designed to weaken white Western nations wherever their colonies are, and it worked. It had everything to do with the apartheid movement. The Rand Daily Mail is a communist newspaper, and it's done a fantastic job at what it was supposed to do. Weaken the West. Now, 1902, the New York Stock Exchange building was redesigned by architect George Post after the original was torn down. Get this, guys. Here's the official story. The New York Stock Exchange closed only on 2 dates. One was 1865. Get that, guys. 1865. And it closed with the assassination of Abraham Lincoln, who opposed the financial takeover of the Rothschild, and he was killed for it. That is Abraham Lincoln. But the second time the New York Stock Exchange closed, and the only time since the first closure that it closed, was the assassination of William McKinley, the last American president, in 1901. The official story is the New York Stock Exchange was completely torn down. I'm going to show you pictures of it here in a minute. It was completely torn down and rebuilt. A real funny story. The pictures I'm about to show you, it's highly doubtful that they tore it down in 1901 and then they built a new one in 1902. So they built it in 1902 and it was open to the public in 1903. Also in New York, another funny story. In New York, the Flatiron Building between Fifth Avenue and I can't remember, but it's the Cheese Wedge Building, famous building from Ghostbusters 21. It's the world's first, according to the historical record, it's the world's first skyscraper. It's the Flatiron Building in New York. Built in 1901 and finished in 1902 and opened. Now, in the calendrics I've shown in prior videos that New York's history began in 1626, which was a Phoenix year. 414 years before 2040. 414 years is a cursed Earth cycle. It's 138 times 3. Now, 138 years after the founding of New York by the Dutch, when they purchased that strip of land from the Manhattan Indians, 138 years later was the year 1764. And we're going to get to that year in a little while in this video. 138 years after that was 1902, when all these changes happened in New York City. 138 years after that is 2040. What happens in 2040? New York Stock Exchange is over. All skyscrapers are filled. This is what all the holography shows. The calendrics are very specific, and we're going to get into that. This video still has a long way to go. We got some profound stuff to show you. So, Aswan Dam, a massive amount of architecture. The Aswan Dam in Egypt is completed in 1902. 1902, the cornerstone is laid for the famous New York Public Library. The cornerstone is laid in 1902 in the month of May. That's right. The New York Public Library in New York is the largest marble structure ever attempted in the United States. 1902, construction was at its height. The underground New York subway system, 1902. In 1902, the White House for the new president was completely modernized. I'm sure it was, because after killing the real president, they had to come in and they had to go through that whole White House to get rid of any spying devices, look for all the secret tunnels. They had to know everything about it. There was a complete government takeover by a whole different people, and they had to keep it secret. The American people largely did not know that the United States became a captured operation in 1902. All right. 1902. Goodwill is founded. Goodwill. Everybody's got a Goodwill in their town. Goodwill's founded. One of the greatest scams in the world. Yeah. Donate your stuff to Goodwill. The poor don't get that stuff. That dude sells that stuff. You're giving him all kinds of things that he can sell. Yeah, it's crazy. Goodwill. AAA, the American Automobile Association, is founded, AAA, in 1902. I don't have my wallet with me. I'll show you my AAA card. Yeah. 1902. co-masonry begins in 1902. In America first, allowing women to join the Freemasonic order. Mrs. Anne Besant is the first lady initiated into the Masons. I've read one of her books, Mrs. Anne Besant. In England, in the same year of 1902, the first co-masonry lodge is consecrated. It's all by design. In 1902, y'all let me know when too many coincidences becomes no coincidence at all. 1902, Target is founded. Walgreens is founded. Nordstrom is founded. Kraft Foods is founded. Coca-Cola Bottling Company is founded. Coca-Cola was invented earlier, but the bottling company for Coca-Cola, 1902. Western Pacific Railroad, 1902. Gibson Guitar Company, 1902. J.C. Penney's, 1902. The first 1902 was the first year of operation of the United States Steel Corporation of Charles Schwab and J.P. Morgan, a vast enterprise that propelled America into a frenzy of city, naval, and military building, a second wind to the Industrial Revolution. 1902, Lamar Advertising. Most people have never heard of them. Lamar Advertising, one of the largest, if not the largest advertising agency in the entire world today. Current worth is $10 billion. What about the adhesive company? It's worth billions. Founded in 1902. 3M, founded in 1902. Can't make this stuff up. Turner Construction, founded 1902, becoming Turner Enterprises, becoming Turner Cable, becoming Turner Communications. You've all heard of it, founded 1902. So you guys have to understand, this is all put together by me. A little bit of help. I got 7 or 8 of these from Gary Warmerdam. Some of y'all sent me emails. I've added a couple. Listen, if there was a group of people that just did a 1902 project, I think you would be astonished to find how many Fortune 500 companies have their original antecedents in 1902, but they were named something else. I'm just naming the ones that are familiar. There's still a whole lot of other ones founded in 1902. I don't know who they are today. They've changed their names. You know how a lot of them do it. They change their names to conceal our identities. So, now, there are many companies today. I know for a fact many of the companies that were founded in 1902 no longer go by those names. I've read the list. Gary Warmerdam provided me a list of them that showed me that they have merged with U.S. Steel. They've merged with Halliburton. They've merged with GE. Yeah, they've now merged with the tech companies like Microsoft. So we don't know them anymore, but a lot of those companies that started in 1902 have now merged into the super giants. And it's hard to keep up with them. But one thing that's not hard to keep up with is that I'm painting a picture for you that in 1902 something strange happened, and despite the fact that the Phoenix phenomenon was highly localized in certain areas, the death toll was high. Yes, it was the highest death toll in American history for any volcanoes. In history for the Western world, we can shelve everything about the Phoenix as far as destruction, all the negative aspects of the Phoenix. We can shelve all that. Remember, Phoenix creates new edits into the holography. It either impedes development, induces arrested development, or it acts as a benefactor. And it suddenly introduces all kinds of new things into the field to help perpetuate whatever the design of the scheme is. We are immortal souls flowing through a mathematical construct, and that construct it goes through many edits every 138 years. The list I just gave you isn't done. Many of the things that we enjoy today, right now, that make our lives possible and livable, all started in 1902. Air conditioning was invented in 1902 by Carrier. Neon lighting appeared for the first time in 1902. Tungsten light bulb filaments that make all our lighting possible everywhere is 1902. Vacuum cleaners invented 1902. Radio receivers first appeared to the public in 1902. The teddy bear, the little toy teddy bear, 1902. Pepsi Cola is founded in the United States in 1902. Georges Claude in 1902 developed the first neon lamp. He was the first person to apply an electrical discharge to a sealed tube with neon as the gas, creating the first neon lamp. This was 1902. That's how he did it. James McKenzie, 1902, invented the first version of the lie detector test, the polygraph. What? 1902? Crayola crayons, invented in 1902 by Benny and Smith. Bottle making machinery. Do I have a bottle in here? You guys know what a bottle is. Glass bottle making machinery invented in 1902. Changed everything. Now we can ship things in bottles. We can store things in bottles. We can put things on shelves and sell them better. Bottle making. Now, bottles were made, but they were made by glass blowers. Now machines in 1902 started making bottles. Or did they? Or is that just the story? Stubblefield in 1902 makes the first public demonstration of radio. Totally changed our lives. Everything goes by radio now. So, it was Hubert Cecil Booth who supposedly invented the vacuum cleaner in 1902. 1902, Gillette Razor. Gillette Razor Company is founded in 1902. And one of their first razors is the double-bladed disposable safety razor. Nothing new under the sun. We thought that thing was new. They've been making those since 1902. 1902 in Los Angeles, the world's first movie theater. The Electric Theater is opened in Los Angeles. 1902, movie theaters. Who'd have thunk? Who'd have thunk? 1902, guess who's born? Ray Kroc, founder of McDonald's Corp. Imagine that. Imagine that. It's crazy. So, let's see. Oh, I'm not done. Not done at all. Not done at all. Oh, yeah, we got some good ones. We got some good ones. 1902, the very first fast food restaurant came out in the month of June. A cafeteria-styled automat in Philadelphia. Whole meals were obtained from a coin-operated slot and glass displays. You walked up to the machine, you looked at the meal that you wanted, you put your coin in there, or hit the slot, and it would give you your whole meal on a plate. Isn't that crazy? 1902, fast food invented. 1902, the very first successful brain surgery. It was by a Dr. Harvey Cushing. 1902, Heaviside in England and Kennelly, a British American, discovered that an atmospheric layer caused radio waves to bounce back to Earth, making it possible to have long-distance transmission of signals. What a coincidence, 1902. Another coincidence, Civil unrest in Ireland, 20,000 Irishmen in Phoenix Park of Dublin demonstrated against the British government in 1902. 1902, the musical The Wizard of Oz debuted. How odd is that? How many rabbit holes have we're going to go through studying The Wizard of Oz? Wizard of Oz debuts 1902. Also, a movie, A Trip to the Moon, debuts in 1902. It's the very first science fiction film. Also, 1902, The Hunchback of Notre Dame debuts. You know what? I told you guys I was going to show you that film. I'm going to show it to you right now. I am. I'm going to show you that. Oh, I didn't get it. You've seen the 1902 where the little rocket takes off and the people get out the rocket and they're on the moon. It looks like cheese and the moon's got a face. It's the very first scientific film, guys. But I do have a treat for you. Some of you have seen this. But I'm going to show you this 1 minute and 35-second video. It's from 1902. Let's see if I can find it. I don't think I'm presenting. So I see what I got to do. I got to take it all out of the file. I see. That's why y'all didn't see that earlier. I literally have to take a video out of the file, put it on my desktop so you can see it. That's what I'm going to do. Just like that. All right. I'm going to share this video for you guys while I take a real fast little pee break. (1902). Man, that was awesome. All right. That's nice. That's a nice little break.
Howdy, folks. Wasn't that an amazing little video? Yeah, 1902. All those things that happened in 1902. Believe it or not, find out in the Amos Sunday Sewn 33 last bit. Because this here, obviously, is the next bit. Okay, see you in the next bit. Be good to each other.
Video.
Hey folks, back for the last bit. Let's get back to it.
And remove that. Oh yeah, it's going down. We got a lot more to go. Face diaper, you behave. All right. So, okay. Oh, we still got more to go. It's crazy about the Wizard of Oz, A Trip to the Moon, the first science fiction. It's crazy. All right. Hunchback of Notre Dame. Debuts in the opera. It's crazy. In sports culture, in 1902, the very first Rose Bowl was played. The Tour de France. Get this. The Tour de France, the greatest bicycle race of all time, is founded in 1902. At the same time that American Football Dome Coliseum is founded. Come on, guys. All right. So, 1902, Edgar Cayce begins miraculous healings. You see, after diagnosing his own throat malady under hypnosis in 1901, the amazing sleeping prophet, that's what they called him, Edgar Cayce, who he was born in 1877, but he began diagnosing the ailments of others and predicting the future while under hypnosis. Today, his organization, ARE, the was it Association of Research and Enlightenment, something like that, but it's Edgar Cayce's association. It's ARE is still publishing books on his readings and still providing his works to the public. That was 1902 when his awakening happened to where he could heal, he could diagnose people and lead, which would lead to their healing. That was 1902 when that happened. Here it is, 2024, and he still has a foundation that's going strong. A lot of people are still into Edgar Cayce. So, like I said, y'all bear with me. I told you it's going to be long. Now I got some pictures to show you. And we're still not done after that. Find these pictures. Share screen. Always something. All right. No, that's not it. Why isn't this working? Okay. All right, you guys should be able to see this. Let me go back here. Okay, the day the world ended, May 7th, 1902. Okay, that's just the cover of a popular book. Here's Stonehenge. Sir Norman Lockyer studied Stonehenge in 1901, and in 1902, he and others have determined that the heel stone you see here, there's another stone way out here. Heel means sun. It was specifically designed to draw attention to the month of May. That's really interesting, guys. You see the date at the top? Sir Norman Lockyer said that Stonehenge was built in 1680 BC, but he's wrong. That's Stonehenge 3. Stonehenge was built in 3163 BC, somewhere around then. It was destroyed in 2239 BC at the Great Flood. Stonehenge 2 was them re-erecting it after that event, that Phoenix event. When they re-erected it, they added a bunch of these smaller stones. Then they turn around and 1687 BC was the Igan deluge. So he's dead on the money for the erection of Stonehenge, but it was the third time, and he dated it 1680, which is probably dead on accurate, 7 years after the Igan deluge. Let's see, I don't know, 1902, hundreds of billions of tons of red mud, dust, reddish rains blanket the world, covered islands and ships. A new star appeared, some believing it to be a planet. bringing forth also a new comet attended by earthquakes and volcanism. In May, cities around the world reported a blackening of the sky. The mud flood researchers will find many of their documented modern resets were in 1902. A vast amount of effort and resources has gone into erasing this event from the historical record. We're not done. I still got more lists to go through. 1919, Charles Fort concluded that after exhaustive research that in 1902 and 1903, we passed through the remains of a powdered world left over from an ancient interplanetary dispute, brooding in space like red resentment ever since. The other dark age of the year 1902. New York, originally founded in 1626, a phoenix year. New York will be destroyed in its 414th year, which is the cursed earth period, in 2040, also by Phoenix. Also found in Nostradamus' prophecies, which we're about to get into. This is the Antikythera computer, recognized as an artifact in 1902 from a shipwreck that was salvaged in 1901. This is the one that has the little Greek calendar on it. It's a marker. Look at the sophistication. This is 2,000 years old. These boxes were said to be designed by the Greeks, like Thales, to predict astronomical periods forward and backward in time. Guys, I'm about to show you something that's going to blow your minds about 1902. This device was designed to measure periods forward and backward in time. Here it is again. This is the Antikythera device. Specifically, the marker specifically is on 583 BC. Robert de Sola Price, the researcher who studied this for 20 years, thought it was 584 BC. Zechariah Sitchin believes it was 586 because he's Jewish and he wants to link it to the fall of Jerusalem. Here it is again. 2,000-year-old shipwreck. This computer. Oh, we don't need to get there yet. Here is the Anunnaki Ner calendar, and there is the year 162. Remember, in 1902, an Olmec artifact in the Olmec date is equal to our year of 162. That artifact is describing this year. A disease killed off whole communities from China to the provinces of the Roman Empire, initiating a dark age over Eastern Hemisphere. Discovered in 1902. 1903. What is all this? This is all different weird stuff that happened in 1903. We still had a lot of dust falling from the sky in 1903. 1902. Shadow bands are a solar eclipse mystery because not everybody sees them. Isn't that interesting? Shadow bands are scientifically documented that some humans can see them while others can't. These are lines across the sky caused by the sun. Crazy. And here it is, according to George Chambers' book, The Story of Eclipses, 1902. The Anglo-Boer War ends in 1902. This is South America. This is the Johannesburg and all that. First skyscraper, New York, 1902, Cheese Wedge. The Fuller Building, called Flatiron Building, by the Fuller Construction Company. There it is right there, 1902. I don't know when this picture was taken. It says 1902. There's scaffolding there. For anybody who thinks it's a lot older, there's scaffolding, so I don't know. We got trolleys down here with rail systems. We have buggies. Not a single car can be seen. These are all horse buggies. I don't see a single car. They're on rails. I see a bunch of horse buggies. This may be a car. We got a car. We do have a car, a primitive car here. All right, 1902. Oh, look at this. Imagine that. 1903. Protocols of the Learned Elders of Zion. And yes, the Jewish-controlled publishing world, even at the early date, was already putting stuff out saying that this is a hoax, it's all bullshit, it's not true. But there's a lot of people say that this is an actual document because when you read this document, it's exactly how the world is today. They did it. They took, 1902, they've been in control of the United States of America. And that's the only reason why the last 100 years or so makes so much sense to me. New Lands Reclamation Act, 1902. American Commercial Invasion of Europe, 1902. Biologics Control Act of 1902, also known as the Virus Toxin Law. Wow. Amazing. The Winding Up of Companies and Reconstruction, 1902. What does the winding up means? When were you wound down? Why was winding up all of a sudden necessary in 1902? The Dick Act of 1902, also known as the Efficiency of Militia Bill. Wow. It invalidates all so-called gun control laws. That's interesting. I wonder if any of the patriots know about the Dick Act of 1902. Children of the Frost, 1902, Jack London. Famous literature. Here's the Rand Daily Mail. I just told you about it. It's like a communist deal. The Tale of Peter Rabbit, 1902. More famous literature. The Theory of Optics, 1902. Oh, I already told you about all this. This is New York Stock Exchange, 1865, all that. New York Stock Exchange closed only when the two presidents were assassinated. It's amazing. Then all of a sudden, the New York Stock Exchange is totally rebuilt, 1902. Look at that. Look at that. Interior of New York's historic stock exchange. Look at that. This is the 1902 version. No, excuse me. This is the 1800s version. This is what it looked like in the 1800s. And look, even on the bottom, it says torn down. I think I got another one. I got it. Yeah, right there. Torn down in 1901. Do you really believe that they tore this structure down? Look at that. Look at that. Do you really believe they tore that structure down? Look at that. That's the original 1800s version right there. They tore that down to replace it with this, which is an illustration compared to a photograph. There's a photograph of the original. That's a photograph of the original from the 1800s. Look at this. Here's a new one. New York Stock Exchange. Hard to believe, guys. 1902. Public Library. Look at that public library. Look how many levels. Look at all those books in the New York Public Library. It's like 9 levels. Okay, 8 levels in one basement. New York Public Library. It's a lot of books. Oh, there it is, 1902. Established 1782. The Phoenix. Here's the original seal. Until 1902 when they changed it to a bald eagle. That's a phoenix. United States was taken over in 1902 by foreign power. But it was made to look like everything was continuing as normal. That's how they've been able to pull everything off. Like the New Deal, like the Federal Reserve, IRS, all this was done by design. Make the patriots feel like they're still in control of their country so you can fleece them for their wealth. Look how short all the other buildings are compared to this. The Flatiron Building, supposedly to the historical record, it's the world's first skyscraper at 21.
Sorry, folks. Having a few issues again. Not really sure what's happening here. Having a bit of a reload situation. Yeah,
In 1903, Marie Curie creates artificial
that'll teach me to try and adjust things while I'm playing the show. Sorry folks, it's all my fault. Oh, sorry folks. Technical issues. Who'd have thunked it? Archaix, it's worth having a look, and missed out a bunch of the content now, but it's worth listening to. And if I can get it back, I'll carry on listening to it, because it's rather interesting. Well, it's just not happening, is it? Now I've frozen up too. Can't you love this, folks? Probably not. Well, folks, sure. Go back to YouTube.